You're on the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night. I'm Warren Sprouse. You're watching this coronavirus thing going on? We're getting all bent out of shape about it. People are starting to get frightened. It isn't really here yet, not where we are. The communist Chinese government continues to claim they have the coronavirus under control. But a lack of transparency and leaking videos out of the partially locked down country show otherwise. Doctors who sounded the alarm about the spread of the virus have been imprisoned, we're told. At least one journalist has disappeared, and the government continues to keep independent health inspectors out of the country. Lawyer and citizen journalist Chen Qiushi vanished while documenting the coronavirus lockdown in Wuhan. He spent weeks filming patients and overrun hospitals. Pictures of citizens being dragged out of their homes to be taken to a hospital. People generally don't resist like this when going to see a doctor or going to the hospital for medical help, but the pictures show men dragging people, forcing people out of their homes and into vehicles. It was like they were being arrested. As of February 6, 2 people with coronavirus have died outside mainland China, one in the Philippines and one in Hong Kong. That, of course, according to officials. That brings the total global known deaths to 1,527. That was as of yesterday, February 15. 1,523 of these occurred in China. Only 4 have occurred outside China, and only 1 outside the region. The region includes Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, Malaysia, and the Philippines. And that one that died is in France. While 8,599 have recovered. We don't hear that statistic, do we? The virus has been confirmed in 29 countries outside of China. That according to the World Health Organization. But most infections outside the region have been somewhere between 1 to 3, with the exception of Australia. They're reporting 10. Now, as bad as all this is, the hype has really been out of proportion. Consider the 2017-2018 flu season. This flu season was the deadliest we've seen in years, resulting in a record-breaking number of hospitalizations and at least 80,000 deaths. That according to the Centers for Disease Control. News outlets vying for attention and preeminence, stoking the fires, we don't know. Or maybe it's just for ratings. Maybe they're trying to protect us. Maybe they're just trying to make money off of us. Perhaps credibility. If my news company is the only one telling the story, no one will believe me. I'll lose viewers and listeners, so we've got to spread this out. Have you seen the massive global machine at work this past week or two? We're being told now that China hid the situation from view for several weeks. Here in the West, we highlight just about every potentially dangerous event or circumstance even before they happen. We do that for ratings. In the end, the West is certainly more protected, but often less informed. In the end, the West is left telling the story. We're not a part of it, but we want to be a part of it. Increasingly, we're being conditioned to accept being protected, and that for our own good. Now, You do know that, right? We're being protected for our own good. What does all that mean moving forward? Well, it could mean an increasing news blackout where controversial and potentially scary things are happening. We have news blackouts in this country. There are whole scads of things the conservative crowd is standing for, talking about, moving forward with, living out and doing, and that you don't hear about. It's like they don't exist, except when they're starting trouble. But right now we have a news machine not telling us the whole truth. They're letting us believe that this disease is about ready to take over everywhere. But it's not. This virus is not the end of the world. But we're talking about like it is. Much like they did with the Australian fire, you remember that? Which, by the way, is under control. That's not getting as much coverage as the fire got. Now, the fire was horrendous. But it's under control now. We'll probably never hear anything more about it. And firefighters from all over the world, the Western world, went to help. We did hear something of that. Meaningful events, potentially disastrous events presented as the end of the world as we know it, are really not helpful. As we are being regaled with these things, we're not always getting the real facts. We just get the hype, the fear. And you got to believe that's for ratings. Because if it's not, these people are treating us like children. They can't just tell us the truth. They have to make it big and marvelous and whatever. Or are there a significant number of Americans who are children? Maybe the media is playing to us as we are. People who are not really paying attention. People not really able to make rational decisions unless somebody on NBC tells you what to do. People with little or no personal resources to cope with this sort of thing. Now, I know personally people who run out and buy water, machines to purify water, stockpile food and paper goods and whatever else. Anytime there's a news broadcast that sounds scary, people who are spending a small fortune on things they really don't need. I know people who 10 or 12 years ago, when we were in this thing, where the world was going to come to an end again, went and bought all this stuff only to throw it away. And you remember the light bulb scare? You don't remember that? That was about 10 years ago. That one that said that you would not be able to purchase incandescent light bulbs after the first of the year, whatever year that was. Yeah, that didn't happen, did it? And all those light bulbs you bought and stored, you still got. The coronavirus is vicious. It's presented as new, although it's really not as new as they make it out to be. It's a different strain, and it's pretty vicious. But it's being presented as a real threat to your life. And it's not really. It's not here. Will it come here? Oh, it could. Any minute you might get it. It may never. You will catch it only if you are in contact with someone who has it. 89,000 people died of the flu just a couple of years ago, and you probably don't know any of them. Do you know anybody who had the flu? Probably you do. And they recovered, didn't they? All this is called being practical, acting responsibly, both of which seem to be in the beginning stages of running out. We have short supply on these two characteristics. Be reasonable, be practical. Don't run off into the woods with your hair on fire every time somebody tells you something. Stop trusting your phone for information, or your cable TV, or any TV or radio broadcast for that matter. Think. Check it out. Take a deep breath.